Oh, yeah. Y'all know what time it is, man. It's the San Francisco 49ers morning show. A little bit later than usual, but has some things going on this morning. I'm excited, though, to be able to push it out because I have a special guest coming on. One of my buddies, he's going to talk all things Dallas Cowboys. Y'all hear about the 49ers all the time. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the Dallas Cowboys, their offense, their defense, their coordinators. We're getting down to the nitty gritty with all that. No pun intended. All right, but let's get it, y'all. Y'all know what it is. We'll be right back.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Aaron Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crock Talk TV podcast. Welcome to another episode of the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. I'm your host, former NFL and NFL defensive back, Eric Crock. Y'all know what it is, man. It's the morning show. We get into everything pertaining to the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm having one of my buddies come on and join me live. And also, I'll give you guys the opportunity to come on live and ask him questions as well. So it's going down. We're on that decent hour. I ain't got nothing else to do until 5 p.m. the next 4 hours. We ain't going for 4 hours, but we don't got to be rushed off. So with no further ado, I appreciate everybody that's in here. Real quick, let's go ahead and, you veterans in here that are used to coming on here, y'all know what it is, man. We gotta send those flames. I see the flames coming in already. There we go. 5 flames if you're feeling good. Anything less than that, we need to talk about it. Make sure everybody mental health going into this game is great. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what it is. I'm excited. I mean, when is the last time the 49ers and Dallas Cowboys played a meaningful game? It really means something. It's been a long time. And I'm excited to talk about this with Chris because we're going to talk about the history between these two teams. If you're younger than me, I'm 34 years old. If you're younger than me, you might not get it. Because I'm right there at the cusp, right? At the cutoff point. Any younger than me might not get it. But this is a big time rivalry. Maybe, I don't know, my brother, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I get my brother on here. My big brother, he's a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. He's amped. He's excited. I'm going to the game. I hope y'all are going to the game. We're going to meet up. John Chapman, you already know he got the whole Gold Rush 49ers road trip going down. I'll try to put the link in here at some point, but it's going down, man. Everybody feeling good. Got the flames going up. Let's go. It's go time. So anyways, man, gosh, playoffs. Who would have thought 49ers are 2-4. Now they head into the playoffs with the best record since week 8. Didn't think that this would be the case, but we're here. And to discuss all of that and more, I got my guy, Chris Vanek from, you want to shout out your Twitter name? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So my Twitter name is NoEnvy_Chris. That's NONV_Chris. But yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here. We used to host a show together where we talk about all things NFL. Haven't really gotten to discuss a lot with each other lately, but I'm sure, with the way the playoffs lined up and, our two teams getting ready to go to battle, it just seemed fitting that we get back in touch.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Once I was like, man, there's nobody better to talk to about this matchup than my guy, Chris. And I see somebody, they put this in the chat. They said the last time the 49ers and Cowboys had a meaningful game, there was no Amazon.
That's true.
That's wild.
That's true.
I would say maybe the most anticipated game, probably 2011, Harbaugh's first year. Cowboys won. They came back. I want to say maybe they won in overtime with who was the guy from the show? Hollins? Jesse Hollins? Was that his name?
Jesse Holley.
Holly, there we go. Had the big catch down the sideline. 49ers actually jumped out to a lead. They ended up losing that game. They played a couple years later when Colin Kaepernick was at quarterback. 49ers went into Dallas. They won that game. And those were the last two, meaningful games that these two teams played. But nothing to this magnitude of playing in the playoffs. So I want to ask you first, going all the way back to the rivalry of the late 80s, the early 90s, most people would tell you that those games, that NFC Championship game, that was a Super Bowl. Whoever won that game was winning the Super Bowl. And the Cowboys got the better of the 49ers a few times. 49ers beat them a couple times as well. But how old were you when all that was going down? And what can you remember from that rivalry?
Yeah, so that rivalry for me was very intense because I also grew up in the Bay Area. So I'm 37 years old. So when I was growing up, this rivalry was very fresh. Through the early in the mid 90s. And I can remember being a kid in school, and I would get into so many fights over this rivalry alone. Especially, when we would win, when we won in back-to-back NFC championship games, it was brutal for me as a kid. But it's very rich for me because I was born into a Cowboys fan family, and so I would hear a lot of things from the Danny White days to the Dwight Clark catch, which is one of the most infamous and memorable plays in NFL history, right? So these things were all really fresh for me, and I just feel blessed that I got to grow up in the '90s and be able to experience these things. Because I mean, even the players will tell you, from both sides that whenever these two teams met in the NFC Championship game, they were pretty much confident that whoever won that game was going to be the Super Bowl champion that year, and that's generally what happened.
Right. And there was kind of a swing between the 94 season and the 95 season. 94 49ers had got Deion Sanders. They went on, they won the Super Bowl. Deion Sanders leaves the 49ers, goes to the Dallas Cowboys. They win the Super Bowl. And that was the last time either one of these teams won a Super Bowl. Now, obviously, the 49ers have been in the Super Bowl a couple times since then, but not really the level of success that I'm pretty sure most teams and fan bases would have liked to see since then, which was, I mean, what was that, 20 plus years ago?
27 years is the last time either one of us has won a Super Bowl. And before the Deion Sanders thing too, a lot of people forget, especially if you're younger, the player that really swung that was a
Charles
former
Haley?
49er in Charles Haley.
Yeah.
And when he came to Dallas, that put us over the top. And then it took San Francisco to go out and pick up Ken Norton from us in free agency, when free agency really first started kicking off in the NFL, and they went out and signed Deion Sanders. And Jerry Jones said, "No, we're not having any of that. We're going to drop a bag, and we're gonna pay Deion Sanders and bring him here." So and then that swung it in our momentum at that point. So yeah, it's a deep rivalry, and it means a lot, especially for a little bit of the older generation.
No,
Which
definitely.
is kind of weird to say about myself.
I know, I'm
but
like saying that's kind of sad. I'm feeling a little old thinking about those matchups. Let's talk about kind of what's going on right now. The Dallas Cowboys,
yeah,
they are coming off of 3 straight victories over the 49ers. Now, I know 49er fans are kind of revisit those games and look at the quarterbacks who started those games. I believe it was Blaine Gabbert,
mm-hmm.
CJ Beathard, and Nick Mullins. I think we
Yeah,
are a little better at the quarterback position right now. And even then, in the last matchup, Cowboys didn't have Dak Prescott. They had Andy Dalton playing in that
sure.
game. And it was kind of somewhat of a shootout between the two teams and those quarterbacks. Both teams are much healthier right now. So we can kind of wipe out the last 3 meetings between the two teams. But let's get into the
Sure.
Dallas Cowboys and kind of what makes them click. And I know as a 49er fan, the things that worries me the most, and probably other San Francisco 49er fans right now, is the Cowboys offense. They're coming in. They have the highest scoring offense in the league. I have been listening in on some of the Twitter spaces, and they've talked a little bit about how the coordinator, Kellen Moore, he's kind of been up and down a little bit with his play calling. So there's been kind of these kind of low moments, and then they have these high moments. Who are the Dallas Cowboys offensively, and what can 49er fans, just from a broad area, and again, we'll get into the specifics of, the guys at different positions, but what can we expect?
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine at this point. This is a question that Cowboys fans have been asking themselves pretty much all year. Maybe not all year, but since we had the bye, we started off, the first 6-7 weeks of the NFL season being at the top of the league as we are now, but everything felt a lot more consistent. Everything felt a lot easier to get in terms of yards and being able to pretty much impose our will on whoever we wanted to, whether it be through the air or on the ground. Dak Prescott ended up suffering a strained calf injury in the final throw in the New England game. And ever since then, we've just been kind of up and down. But when you kind of dive a little bit deeper into the numbers, what's going to stick out at you are going to be games like the Denver game, or more recently the Arizona Cardinal game, maybe even the Kansas City game where we had 12 possessions and could only muster 3 field goals. But the reality of the situation is that against the NFC East, we were averaging 40 points a game. Against the rest of the league, we were averaging 26.5 points per game.
So, and that kind of goes to what my guy Javier Vega is saying right here. Point differential between you guys and the NFC East opponents is plus 22, as opposed to everyone else plus 3.6. And that's a drastic drop off in the level of kind of the dominance that you've had over the NFC East teams as opposed to everyone else. Is that something that you clearly see while watching the games?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of that's just going to be because that's the nature of playing interdivisional games. You know your opponents very, very well. And it's no secret, if you've followed football, played football at any level, and followed the NFL, number one, your goal is to win your division.
Yep.
And then you're supposed to win playoff games and then win a Super Bowl, right? So we're very, very well built to be able to beat teams in our division. It just so happens that they're not very good either. But when you look at 26.5 points per game against the rest of the league, that's good enough to win a lot of football games. 26.5 points per game is a lot. So when you're listening to these mainstream talking heads in sports media talk about us being in a slump, they're comparing that to 40 points per game. They're comparing that to games where everything just seems to go right. Every team in the NFL, including the teams that are in the playoffs, have had stretches where they looked bad. Green Bay has looked bad. Tampa Bay was shut out by New Orleans. Buffalo lost to Jacksonville, right? So these are not things that are exclusive to the Dallas Cowboys in terms of struggling. Matchups will dictate a lot of different things. Personnel and scheme from one team to the other will dictate a lot of things. The biggest issue is, for me personally, is Kellen Moore's tendency to become stubborn and want to just do what he thinks is going to work pregame and not make the correct adjustments mid-game. That's going to be a concern that I'm looking to see. Are we going to continue to be a front-running team and get a 10, 14-point lead and continue to keep our foot on the gas? Because historically this season, the Dallas Cowboys do not do what the Rams did against you guys, and they do not get passive. They're very front-running, and they will run up the score. The Rams kind of took their foot off the gas and played a little bit not to lose in that game. We won't do that. So it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to jump ahead and get a little bit of a lead and force the game to be in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, or if we're going to get stifled a little bit and Kellen Moore is going to become stubborn and we're going to struggle to put points on the board.
There is one thing I slightly disagree with you on, and it's the fact that the Rams took their foot off the gas. When they were up 17-0, the 49ers had the ball before halftime. They scored 3 points. And fortunately for the 49ers, they got the ball after halftime, and they drove down and punched them in the mouth and scored a touchdown. And then from there, it was a ball game again. So kind of a opportunistic situation for the 49ers that they were able to kind of take advantage of. I do want to ask you about, just the offense and some of the weapons that you guys have and some of the issues that they can pose for the 49ers and their defense. At quarterback right now, you have Dak Prescott. How has his season kind of been? Because you talked about having the calf injury early in the year. As of late, I've seen some games where, he's lighting it up. I believe I saw him throw like 4 touchdowns in the first half multiple times over the last few weeks. There's also games, like you talked about, having some low moments against the Kansas City Chiefs where I'm like, wow, the Cowboys are struggling to score against Kansas City. So that was the one game. The Broncos, he ended up scoring a lot of points late, making it look a little better than it initially was early on when I was watching the game. Same with the Cardinals game where the Cardinals jumped out to a big lead, and then the Cowboys were able to kind of make it look better down the stretch a little bit. But how has he played kind of consistently as far as what you know you can expect from him on a game-to-game basis?
Yeah, it's a little difficult to try and say, mainly because we went through a stretch in the beginning of the season where we were running the football at a very high clip, and we were just doing it whenever we wanted to. And then something happened where we just couldn't run the football effectively anymore. So that's going to dictate a lot of what any quarterback is going to be able to do, save for maybe just a couple of guys in the league. But if you're asking me my confidence level in Dak Prescott, it's very high. It's an 8 or a 9. I mean, he's had 3 playoff games, in his career, and he's played great in all of them. He's had an average QBR of 77, which if
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at the rest of the quarterbacks' performance in QBR over the season, that would have been number 1 in the NFL this year. Now, I know that's only 3 games, but I'm just saying it's a high number. Because that's
especially in the biggest game. In one of those games, he was a rookie.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we fell behind against Green Bay in that game. And as a rookie, he stormed back. So he's very composed. And even if we manage to fall behind in this game, I'm very confident in him being able to will us back into a game because he's shown he can do it a lot over the course of his career. So I think Kellen Moore is going to have a pretty good game plan coming into this game. He's going to know where to attack. And I think this is probably going to end up being a Dak Prescott game. I don't see us being able to run the football incredibly effectively because we haven't been able to do it over the last 8 or 9 weeks or so. Tony Pollard coming back is going to be huge for us, and he does give us big playability. And you're going to see the Dallas Cowboys probably just run enough to keep the defense honest and put the game in Dak Prescott's hands. So.
I like it. So what can we expect from the run game, right? You talked about how at times that can be a little stagnant, and now everything all of a sudden is on Dak Prescott's shoulders. You have a 49ers team who the second half of the season, they've been shutting down the run game. I mean, they've been as good as anybody. I think they're actually like a top 6 or 7 defense in the NFL when it comes to rushing, and they gave up multiple 100-yard rushers in the first 7 games. Since then, they've been really stout. And you watch the Rams game, which I don't think that they have this terrific run game. They're still trying to figure it out, but they shut that down. They really kind of shut it down with most teams that they played against in recent weeks. The Cowboys, I mean, they have Ezekiel Elliott, and 49ers know all about him. He destroyed the 49ers one year. It was the year C.J. Beathard was starting at quarterback, but he had like a 200-plus yard, game between his rushing and receiving numbers.
Right.
What's going on with Zeke? What's going on with Pollard? What can we expect between the dynamic of these two guys who, in theory, they seem like one of the best backfields in the league, but maybe haven't been as dynamic consistently throughout this season? Talk to me a little bit about the run game.
Yeah, so a big part of that is the fact that up until the Arizona game, our projected starting 5 for our offensive line hadn't played a single game together as a unit. We've seen a lot of turnover on the offensive line this year, whether it be from Ty Smith, still battling injuries, Zach Martin catching COVID, Lyle Collins being suspended. So there's been a lot of rotation, and as well as I do, there's no other unit in maybe all of professional sports that needs to be collectively all on the same page in order for things to work smoothly than an NFL offensive line. And we just haven't had a lot of continuity there. So I think what you see a lot in the offense or in the running game struggling a little bit is not a lot of continuity on the offensive line. And guys have been battling injury. I actually was in a Twitter talk space last night, and Ezekiel Elliott's mom was in there, and she confirmed he's still not 100% healthy. He's been dealing with a knee injury for about 7 weeks. So, that's going to play a lot into it also. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you see Corey Clement getting some touches because he's almost every time he's got his hands on the football, he's made a positive play over the last few weeks when we've been able to get him some touches. So it's going to be a struggle. The 49ers have been playing really good football against the run lately. I mean, the 49ers have been playing really good football in general lately, but, you know, I just don't see us being able to run the football effectively unless Zeke is healthier than we're being led on to believe. And, you know, Tony Pollard's able to add some explosiveness.
Now, if the Cowboys aren't able to run the ball as effectively as they would ideally like to, you have these terrific weapons on the outside. Now you're down Gallup, and he had been kind of the outside receiver, and now it seems like CeeDee Lamb, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's played more primarily on the outside while Cooper is on the other outside, and you have Wilson, who has come on as of late to finish the season strong from more of a slot. Is that what we can kind of expect to see? Those three guys out there, and are you guys more of an 11 personnel type team, or are you guys going to go with the two tight ends with Jarwin and Schwartz?
Yeah, so you're not going to see a lot of two tight end sets, especially, I mean, number one, that's not a lot of what we run anyway. We run more 11 personnel than a lot of heavy two tight end sets. But Blake Jarwin is also coming back from injury. So we're not going to see him out there a whole lot. He got some reps against Philly, but we're still in the warm-up process with him. Dalton Schultz has come on and been a godsend for us, honestly. He's been one of the most reliable tight ends in the NFL, and he's definitely turned into that Jason Witten for Tony Romo style security blanket for Dak. He just always seems to get open. Now, he does not run block very well at all. You could probably put you and I out there, and we would probably be graded on PFF as a run blocker just about as well as he is. But in the passing game, you know, he just always seems to get open. Now, what's interesting about Cedric Wilson is that he's been doing this all year. A lot of people forget Michael Gallup went out in Tampa Bay in week 1, and he stepped in and had some really big games, you know, like against Minnesota, where he, besides Amari Cooper's late game heroics in that game, Cedric Wilson was our guy in that game. So, you know, somebody who has over 50 catches and 600 yards in limited time. And this offense has been, you know, clicking a lot more and more prolific when Cedric Wilson has been in the game as opposed to Michael Gallup. And I love Michael Gallup. So it's interesting because I don't think we're a better football team without Michael Gallup, but I think our offense clicks better when Cedric Wilson is in the game. If you look at the games that we've struggled, it's almost exclusively been when Michael Gallup's been playing. And the games where our offense has seemed to get it together, it's when Cedric Wilson has been in there. He's more of a slot guy, so you're going to see him coming out of the slot a lot. But Amari Cooper can run the slot just as well as he can, you know, stretch the field on the outside. And CeeDee Lamb makes majority of his catches when he's in the slot, when he's going over the middle. So you're going to see a lot of different rotating guys at different positions, and that's a little bit of what makes us so dangerous. We've got a lot of weapons that can get open from whether it's the X, the Y, or the Z.
The Denver Broncos game, there's this game, and everybody has kind of these low moments, but I want to kind of dig behind the numbers and ask you what happened in this game. But, you know, obviously the Cowboys lost 30-16, and a couple of those scores were late in the game. CeeDee Lamb, he was held to 2 receptions for 23 yards on 9 targets. What did the Denver Broncos do to try to take away CeeDee Lamb, or at least limit his production to that extent on that many targets?
Yeah, so that's been a game that I've gone over personally kind of a lot. I've watched a lot of the All-22 on that game and tried to dissect and diagnose a little bit of what happened in that game. From the X's and O's standpoint, there was a lot of disguised rush and a lot of disguised coverages that seemed to have fooled Dak a lot in that game, and there wasn't a lot of adjustment from Kellen Moore with that either. Coupled with that, there was a lot of drop passes in that game as well, and when you combine when you combine the fact that your quarterback is getting confused by the defenses that are being shown, and then you also combine that with the fact that there's a lot of drop passes, what you get is a 30-0 game at the start of the fourth quarter. Now, if it was me personally, I would have taken Dak Prescott out of that game, but I think a lot of it was frustration, and there wasn't a lot of continuity in the offense, and I think that they wanted to get Dak some rhythm towards the end of the game. Those were obviously garbage time numbers. Those were, but we saw a lot of that in the Arizona game as well, where they were disguising a lot of who they were bringing on the rush, who they were blitzing with, and a lot of the coverages. So that's going to be very, very interesting. That hasn't been a trend that you've seen with Dak Prescott a lot over his career. He's gotten better and better and better at diagnosing defenses, and was one of the better quarterbacks at doing it this year. But in those two games specifically, the defenses definitely confused him, and it's going to be interesting to see if D'Amico Ryans is going to implement some of that against us this Sunday.
All right, once again, y'all, I got my guy Chris Vinnick on here talking all things Dallas Cowboys. He knows everything there is to know about his team. Before we get to the defensive side of the ball, I just want to ask you, let's say, just hypothetically speaking, what if the Cowboys lose this game and it's on the offense, what did the 49ers do defensively to contribute to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to be determined on if you guys can get a consistent pass rush with just 4. And if you're going to be able to confuse Dak Prescott on the back end in your secondary. If those two things don't happen at a consistent high basis this game, I think it's going to be problematic for the 49ers. There's too many weapons on this Dallas Cowboys offense for the 49ers to sit back and not get pressure on Dak, because he will pick defenses apart if he's allowed time. So those are going to be the two things that I'm concerned about as a Cowboys fan watching this game. Is our offensive line going to be able to create enough time for Dak when the 49ers are sending just 4? And are the 49ers going to be able to confuse Dak Prescott by disguising their coverages?
Now, heading over to the defensive side, and I think when I think of it, I think most of 49er fans, they're so worried about the Cowboys' offense and the weapons. To me, it's the defense, because they've been so opportunistic this season. They've taken the ball away at a high rate. Last time I checked, they had the most takeaways in the NFL, and they give the offense. We talk about the points that Dallas Cowboys are able to put up, and highest scoring offense in the league. Well, how much of that goes to the defense who's taking the ball away? You have pick sixes from Trevon Diggs. He has multiple pick sixes. You have Anthony Brown. I remember watching a game from him. He had a pick 6. I've seen defensive linemen
from our defensive line.
Yeah, defensive linemen getting pick 6, running to the end zone, force fumbles. They take the ball away at a very high rate. So I want to ask you, who's the leader of that, or is it just a collective group from collective effort from everyone?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to look at Trevon Diggs as being the leader of our takeaway group, simply because he had 11 interceptions. But honestly, the leader on this defense it has been and is still Tank Lawrence. He brings such an energy and a calm to this defensive line. Things really ramped up for us when he came back from injury. Now, Micah Parsons is a freak, and he can do whatever he wants, wherever he wants on the field. He's taking snaps at defensive end, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, corner. So I mean, he can be anywhere that you need him to be. But when you're talking about what this secondary feeds on the most, which is takeaways, you have to look at our pass rush first, and that's going to be Tank Lawrence. That's going to be Randy Gregory. That's going to be Micah Parsons, shooting A-gap blitzes or coming off the edge when we move Tank Lawrence inside to play D-tackle. So we're a very fast and we're a very physical defense, especially up front. So the turnovers are key. A lot of those aren't forced turnovers. A lot of those are pressure turnovers where we're forcing quarterbacks into bad throws, or our secondary is playing coverages where it looks like a guy is open and they're not. And that's what a Dan Quinn defense has been predicated on for his entire career since he became a household name. So we don't run a lot of cover three, that Seattle scheme, very much anymore. But a lot of what we do is built on that foundation with some tweaks there. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. And if we are able to contain, maybe slow down this rushing attack and put the 49ers into some, third and long situations, we know Jimmy Garoppolo has a tendency to throw the ball to the other team frequently. So that's something that I'm looking for the defense to capitalize on, is some turnovers from your quarterback.
Right. And I think y'all quarterback, how many interceptions did Dak Prescott throw this year?
He had 10.
Okay, and that's not bad in comparison to how many attempts. I'm pretty sure, even though he missed some games, he had far more attempts than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, he played 16 games this year. Okay. But yeah, his attempts were a lot higher than Jimmy's, and he was one of two quarterbacks this year, him and Aaron Rodgers, to throw for more than, I think it was more than 35 touchdowns and 10 or less interceptions. So he doesn't typically turn the ball over very much. Where he can get got is when he's trying to create some extra space in the pass rush and he steps up in the pocket and tries to take off. He's a little loose with the football in his hands. If the pursuit can catch up to him, he can fumble the ball more than I would like. So.
All right, so we're talking about the defense, and I know you brought up Jimmy Garoppolo, but 49ers, they have a plethora of weapons themselves. They kind of go about it a different way. It's not like a high volume of targets typically to one guy or another. It's usually like one guy gets off, and then, you'll have some other guys kind of contributing. Last game against the Rams, 49ers had three receivers that all almost had 100 yards. One did go over 100, which was Brandon Ayuk. I know Deebo Samuel gets all the love. And for my money, he's one of the best offensive players in the NFL right now, Deebo Samuel.
No question.
But there's also Brandon Ayuk. He gets busy. You saw the young guy, Jawan Jennings. He almost had 100 yards last game. He's starting to fill in and get comfortable as that wide receiver 3. There's also George Kittle. So I want to ask you, when you look at the defense of the Dallas Cowboys and you look at the weapons that the 49ers have offensively, what area of weakness would the 49ers be able to take advantage of, or, at least there be a possibility? One thing that you're kind of worried about when it comes to the defense, and you're like, you know what, I'm not so sure I like that type of matchup against this defense, or that type of player against this defense.
Sure. Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is going to be, how are we going to measure up with you guys against the run? We've got some beefy guys that can get after the quarterback on the interior of the defensive line, and Neville Gallimore and Osa Digizua. But they haven't been that great against the run. And this has been a trend with this Dallas Cowboy team that I've seen over the last, I want to say 3 to 4 years, is we don't like the big fatties in the middle where we can really just clog up holes. We want to play fast. And while we will be able to generate a lot of pressure in the backfield, I don't know. And what gives me some pause is if we start getting gashed for 4, 5, 9, 6 yards a carry, that's gonna slow down a pass rush significantly, and that's gonna open up a lot of things like play action and things of that nature. One guy I would keep your eye on this Dallas defense, and he's gone a little bit under the radar, is safety Jaron Kearse. He's quietly had a really, really, really good season. He's a lengthy, deceptively fast, and really physical safety.
I don't think he's deceptive. I think he is. He's from Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Was he the kid? Was it Kearse coming out, or was it Green that ran like 4.3?
I don't think it was Kearse.
Okay, maybe it was Green.
But he plays a lot faster. His pad speed is a lot faster than what his 40 time was. When you see him on the practice field, you're just like, man, you kind of look like you're in mud, bro. But But when he's in the game, he's fast and he's really instinctive. And but he plays really physical too. Even Devontae KZ, our little free safety, like he's laid the wood on some boys this season. And so this whole narrative that the Cowboys aren't a physical football team, we've ran the ball almost as frequently as the 49ers have this season. And while we might not have done it as efficiently over the last eight weeks, we still run the football, and we still play stout defense when it matters. We're the number one team in the league on third down, right? On defense. So we're a physical team, and we don't give up a lot of stuff. But Jaron Kearse is the guy I think you're going to want to really keep your eye on. George Kittle could be a problem in this game, especially if they get him in one-on-one matchups with Leighton Vander Esch, because I think that is a guy that you guys could really target and exploit, especially in coverage. But if Jaron Kearse is matched up on Kittle, I think it'll be a little bit more difficult of a time getting him the ball over the middle.
You know, there was a time I remember in preseason where they showed this video of Michael Parsons, and he's like running this way, running that way. And he was like a little confused, right? I'm pretty sure since then, because he's one of the best defensive players in the NFL, just as a rookie, you know, he's already like up there. I think he should be an all-pro at the linebacker position. You know, one thing that Kyle Shanahan does a lot more than anyone is pre-snap motion. So when you look at your young guy, how much experience has he had against a team that does a lot of different things movement-wise? It gives you a lot of different things to think about. And, you know, how disciplined will he be if Kyle Shanahan brings out where it's like, okay, I motion guy over here, then he slides over here, then have to snap at the ball, I have a guy going here. And a lot of times they like to get the ball over the middle to a guy right behind where the linebacker just vacated the area. Has he been more disciplined as the season has gone on? Or do you think him or even LVE are guys that potentially the 49ers can kind of take advantage of with a lot of the movement things that they do?
Yeah, so I don't think you're going to see a lot of Micah Parsons being exposed just because he's a freak athlete. Now, there's going to be so much that he can soak up and learn as a rookie. And that's just game reps that, you know what I mean? That type of stuff just comes with experience. I think what you're going to see a lot of is Dan Quinn simplifying the game for him because he's hungry. He's a lion. He's going to want to come out and make a statement and try and impose his will on this game. And things like that, Kyle Shanahan is very, very good at exploiting. What gives me some pause and gives me some concern is you guys run a lot of pass plays and a lot of run plays that look very similar pre-snap. They look almost identical to one another. So it's really hard to kind of diagnose what's going on, especially when you're running in a lot of pre-snap motion. So I don't expect Micah Parsons to go through this game being, not confused. But it's going to be on a lot of the other guys, a lot of the other veterans like Tank Lawrence, LVE, these guys to be able to see and try and help diagnose what's going on to make sure that they're in the right positions. I spoke to this, not that long ago, but I think LVE is the guy that if you can get running backs or George Kittle or even Debo in situations where LVE has to cover a lot, that's going to be problematic for the Dallas Cowboys because I think that's definitely something you guys can exploit.
So real quick, before we get to some of the people, and if you have enough time, I want to bring some callers on so they can ask you questions. Also, anybody in the chat, if I don't see your question, you know what to do, man. Send those super chats in. That definitely helps us see that and bring more awareness to the questions that you have. But I just want to ask you, how do you see this game playing out? Do you have a final score prediction?
Oh, man. It's interesting. I hear a lot of the experts saying that this is going to be a terrible matchup for the Cowboys. And then you see things like Vegas where they only give us where we're only a 3-point favorite. And everybody knows you get 3 points just for being at home. So it's kind of a coin flip to Vegas. But ESPN FPI, only gives the 49ers I think it was a 39% chance to win this game. So I lean a little bit more to ESPN FPI. than I do the experts. And I think a lot of that is them, just trying to drum up headlines and create a narrative and talking points and things to talk about because everybody would love it. If the Cowboys collapse in the playoffs again. I personally see this game being close-ish until maybe the fourth quarter, and then I can see Dallas pulling this game out 31-23.
Okay, and I still think that's pretty close. That's a one-score game, and a lot of times when it comes down to one-score game, especially when you have Jimmy Garoppolo, for everything that he's not, and he'll have his weird moments, he'll have his interceptions that he throws. When it's time to put a drive together to put the 49ers back in position to either tie the game up or win, he typically doesn't miss. And unfortunately for the Rams, they gave him 2 opportunities. He ain't missing twice. So that's one thing that I know.
Yeah.
Like this game is going to be close. I believe it's going to come down to the wire. I am bringing on some listeners now, and you guys, come on. Anything that you guys want to know about the Dallas Cowboys, or if you just want to tell Chris, hey, Chris, you're hella wrong. This is how it's going to go down. Let them know. Also, be respectful. And I have a pretty respectful crowd. Like my listeners that typically are in here, they're awesome. They're awesome. Very knowledgeable people of football. So first up, man, I got my guy Keith coming on. Keith, good morning. How you doing, bro?
Hey, good morning. What's up? How are you?
I'm good.
How you doing, Keith?
Where I'm at. I'm on East Coast near Atlanta. So
yeah, it's almost two my time too. I'm Central Time, so but I'm I tend to the Bay Area crowd, California. Still a little
yeah. All right, so my question for you is which team do you think is more battle tested or has big game experience?
That's for you, Chris.
That's for me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's interesting because I don't look at it as just the the 53 guys on the roster. I have to look at it from a coaching perspective as well too, because these are the guys that are going to get the players prepared all week long, get ready for their matchups, their game plans. I think from a roster perspective, the 49ers definitely have the edge in terms of how to win in the postseason. But we have 2 Super Bowl winning coaches in Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy, and they know what it takes also. So I think it's interesting. The players may be a little bit more prepared for San Francisco, but all things considered, I think it's kind of a wash, honestly, just because of the coaching staff. How we have guys on our coaching staff who are big decision makers, who know what it takes to win the Super Bowl and win in the postseason.
Real quick, Chris,
hold
on one second, Keith. I got a question I want to ask to kind of add on to that. But this year the Dallas Cowboys, I saw someone say outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, they only have 1 win against either a team with a winning record or a playoff team. Do you think
against a playoff team?
Okay, so do you think outside of that, there's anything from this year that has given the Cowboys the confidence that, hey, we can go toe-to-toe with a team that's really good and punch them in the mouth and still come out victorious? I know the game that was really close, week 1, that was a shootout. That game came down to the wire. There were big stops going both ways. And is that kind of maybe the closest thing y'all have had to kind of a playoff atmosphere type of game?
In terms of a playoff atmosphere type game, I would say, yeah. And that game came down to a last-second field goal, and Tom Brady needed to do typical Tom Brady things to do it, right? And that was also Dak Prescott coming off of what could have been a career-ending injury, and he didn't, he didn't take a single snap in preseason. So there was a lot to build on for that game for us. We've also had some really close games, this year that unfortunately didn't go our way, but I know
y'all won that New England game overtime.
Yeah, exactly. So the New England game's a big one too. And I know this is a 49ers, talk show, so there's going to be a lot of Raider haters in here too. But that Raider game came down to overtime, and they're a playoff team as well. And it took a pass interference call by, Lord have mercy, Anthony Brown needs to get that figured out. But it took a pass interference call for us to end up losing that game when we were down by double-digit scores late in the game, and we still managed to come back. So this team knows that they're built to be able to contend with good teams. It's just we haven't been able to finish against those good teams in one-score games towards the end of the game. So
Nobody has more PI experience than the 49ers. I feel like we get a big PI every game. So I'm not going to listen to Cowboys complain about PI. Going back to my question, I know you went into the coaching aspect, but I'm more so talking about the core group of players. Because, coaches, they're on the sideline at the end of the day. Yeah, they do the strategy and all that, but I more so wanted to get into the player aspect of it. When I said being battle tested or having big game experience, do you think that could be a difference in the game, as we saw last week with San Fran, able to get down 17 points and climb back in the game? Do you think if that happened to Dallas that it would be same? Or that's kind of what I'm getting at, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, so if you're asking if the Cowboys think that they can come back from a deficit similarly to how the San Francisco 49ers can, I think absolutely, because our quarterback's still the same from 2016 when he had to come back from, 20 points down against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and he tied the game up, right? So
yes,
am I confident that they can do that? Absolutely. In terms of which units are more prepared for a postseason game, it's going to be San Francisco. They've been there. They've won games where they didn't need to throw the ball. They've won games where they needed to run the football a lot. They've won really close games with their defense. My question is, if the game has to be put into Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, is he going to be able to do that?
I would put more confidence in Dak than I would Jimmy if it came to that. But we saw Jimmy do it last week, and we also saw Jimmy throw 2 picks. So you get good Jimmy and bad Jimmy. Last week was a microcosm of what the whole Jimmy Garoppolo experience. You go on a roller coaster, and that's just what it is. Dak is much more steady. I think our whole game plan is to not get the ball to have to be a quarterback game. 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's going to have to be the game plan coming into this game for San Francisco. You guys know you can run the football, and you can run the football at a very high clip, and you're very persistent with that. You guys got down 17 points and were running the football like you were up 17 points. So you're not going to go away from that, and Dallas is going to have to deal with that for 4 quarters. I would just remind you, if it gets to a situation where Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw the ball a lot in order to win the football game, especially if he's turning the ball over. I know he threw 2 interceptions against the Rams, and you guys still managed to win that game. But prior going into that game, the 49ers were 0-3 this season when he had multiple turnovers, and I believe they were like 2-6 in games when he has one interception. So
2-6, and then 6-0 when he has 0.
Right. So, a lot of this game, I feel like is going to boil down to how cleanly Jimmy Garoppolo can play. You guys might not have to. It could be a situation where you run all over us the way you guys did at Green Bay, or did to Green Bay in 2019, and he only has to throw the ball 8 times. But if he has to, that's where my concern would be if I'm a 49er fan.
I got one more question for you, then I'm going to get off. I want to know your opinion of what's going to happen in the trenches, because I really believe that's where the game is going to be won and lost. And then I'm just going to listen to your thoughts, man. Hey, thanks for having me on, brother.
All right, Keith. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. So in terms of the trenches, I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be very, very important. We have some dogs on the defense. And for the 49ers, my question is, how healthy is Trent Williams going to be? I know he took his decision to play against the Rams right up to game time, and he just couldn't go. And Kyle Shanahan said that, Trent Williams didn't feel like he could protect himself, let alone a quarterback. And recently, that elbow is still giving him a lot of problems, and he's in a lot of pain with it. He's still not practicing, I believe. I don't know what's happened today. This is off of what I've heard yesterday. So it's going to be interesting to see if Trent Williams goes. If he does go, how healthy is he going to be? How problematic is that sprained elbow going to be for him? And on the other side is what is his name? Tom your right tackle, Tom
Compton.
Thank you. I know he's been more than serviceable for you guys. PFF has him rated like the fourth right tackle in the league or something like that. But he's going to see a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence, and he's going to see a lot of Micah Parsons coming off the right side and A-gaps, right? Micah Parsons has been killing Pro Bowl guards and tackles all year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they hold up there. On the flip side, Tyron Smith has been pretty inconsistent. And if you want my honest opinion, I think he made the Pro Bowl again this year just based off of his name and the fact that he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. But, he's been penalized kind of a lot this year, and he's gotten beat sometimes too. He has not looked like traditional Tyron Smith, where coincidentally it was him and Trent Williams going back and forth for who is the best left tackle in the NFL, right? So I think that's a pretty easy argument to make for Trent Williams now. But so that's going to be interesting. And Lyle Collins has been up and down as well. So if the 49ers can do what they've continued to do all year for the most part and generate good pressure for 4 quarters by sending just 4 guys, I think it's going to be an issue for the Dallas Cowboys. So,
that's something that has picked up over
question.
the last. That's something that has picked up over the last half of the season. They weren't generating a ton of pressure the first half of the season, and then all of a sudden they really started to kind of get clicking from that standpoint. I do want to push back on one point. I mean, my next caller on here, he might have some pushback on me with my perspective of this. But Jimmy Garoppolo, the interesting thing about him is most people say, "Oh, you don't want him to have to throw the ball to win." His turnovers typically come when he doesn't really have to throw the ball, like in scenarios where, hey, we could just run the ball and win the game that way. He actually, and everybody in this chat can correct me if I'm wrong, when Jimmy has to throw the ball, he's actually at his best. I think, like, if you kind of look at it throughout his time with the 49ers and a lot of those times down the stretch, when it's like, hey, Jimmy, you could look at certain games like, I don't know, the Super Bowl, where it's like, okay, there were a couple
you
passes
can cherry
that got
pick any
down.
game for any player.
Yeah, but just in general, what we've seen from him, especially down the stretch in these close games, he's his best throwing when he has to throw it. I would actually look at when his interceptions occur, and I think a lot of them are at times where, maybe we need a score, but it's like a close game, where we still can run the ball or throw the ball, or whatever, where it's not out of hand. So I don't know, that's going to be
those
something
situations.
Look into.
Yeah, so those situations aren't the ones I'm talking about. The ones I'm talking about is where, and I know you disagreed with this a little bit earlier, but there was a big breakdown of it when I was watching Skywalker Steel on Cowboys, the Cowboys channel for YouTube.
My nigga's name is Skywalker.
Well, I mean, that's his YouTube name. But yeah, no. So there was a really long breakdown, and him and Botch Lombardi both did it. Shout out to both of them about how the Rams really did take their foot off of the gas a little bit in that game. I think a lot of it was the fact that the crowd noise in the game was nuts. The momentum looked like it was shifting, and McVay got rattled. He got rattled, and Stafford was not sharp towards the end of the game. I think I read something that they had like 66 total yards of offense or something like that in the second half or the fourth quarter or something like that. It was just they were playing to not lose the game when they had the lead, and the Cowboys do not do that. This entire season, whenever we've got a lead, we've ran the score up. So when I was speaking to Jimmy having to throw the football, I wasn't speaking to him being maybe one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the NFL within the final, 2 to 4 minutes of a one-score game. I'm talking about if the Cowboys are able to slow down that San Francisco running attack, and if we're more physical than everybody's claiming that we're not that we're not actually, and we get up to maybe 3 scores, and you guys have to throw the ball a lot. I do not trust Jimmy Garoppolo in that situation, and I think most 49er fans don't. You've known my position on Jimmy Garoppolo for a while.
Right.
You and I
we've talked about it. Yeah. We
over a year, before you started feeling it too. So, I just don't trust him if he's the one that you're relying on to bring you back from a 2 or 3 score deficit.
All right, here we go. So I am going to get Dion on, but first let me get to Darius because Darius has a unique scenario. So I want to make sure I get him in before he has to check out or anything. So Darius, man, what's up, man? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How y'all feeling, man?
Doing
Feeling
good, man. Doing good.
bro.
Thanks for
It's a
tapping
little
in with
delay
us today.
going on with us. For sure, man. You see, I got my boys in the back. I got Jimmy. I got Lance with me. You know what I'm saying? We here. We getting it done. But listen. So I read a stat that the Cowboys suffer when teams run it to the right, which would be the left side of the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know, like, is it because is Micah, is he not that good of a tackler, like open field wise, or is he more of like a dominant person when it comes to just rushing the passer?
Yeah, so it's no secret that Micah Parsons is definitely an elite level pass rusher in this league. And so when you're elite at one thing, people are going to look at what you don't do as well. He's not as good against the run, or he hasn't been this year. But we don't ask him to do that a lot. So when you see stats like we're worse to the right side than we are the left side, you have to look at a lot of things like what kind of coverages are we running at that time. What you're going to see a lot of the time is we're not great against the run on the outside with our corners. Trayvon Diggs does not really like to get really, really physical. In fact, the only corner that we have that I would say really likes to put a helmet on a helmet is our smallest corner, is our slot guy, and that's Jordan Lewis. So when teams are running to the right side a lot, they're putting two hats on DeMarcus Lawrence, and that's because he's our best tackling defensive lineman in terms of playing the run. So DeMarcus Lawrence is getting doubled a lot. And there's a lot of guards being pulled or tackles being pulled, and they're crashing into linebackers and safeties, and our corners don't like to tackle very well against the run. So that's what I think I answered your question there.
So
Go ahead.
all right, so with that, I got one more question. So because I'm kind of stuck on the defense, but I know y'all got offense as well. So I'm gonna ask this. As far as Dak Prescott, continuous pressure, right? And I know you guys are going to rely on Jimmy, being back there scrambled and throwing picks and all that. But Dak, he'll throw a few picks too if you let him. So under pressure, I'm not going to be consistent. You guys have a nice, but more likely than not, I'll get back there a few times, pushing down. How do you see him?
Darius, my bad. I had to remove you because it was cutting in and out. It was getting.
I think I got the
bro.
gist. I think I got the gist of what he was asking. He was like, "How do I feel Dak Prescott's going to do when he's pressured?" Because he has had a tendency when he's under a lot of pressure to overthrow the football and turn the ball over. And I think that's what Darius was asking. If not, let us know in the chat. I'll be more than happy to clear up that question. But I'll answer that to the best of my ability. I said it this entire chat. I've said it this entire week. That's a concern for me. If the 49ers can generate pressure with sending just 4, it's going to be a problem for the Dallas Cowboys. And they've been able to do that pretty consistently over the last 5 to 7 weeks, I would say. So if you're able to generate pressure with just 4, what that does is allows you to play a lot of masked coverages in the back. It allows you to bring a safety up right before the snap and then swap them out post snap. So it'll confuse people. You guys confused Aaron Rodgers with that earlier this year, and it forced him to have to go away from Devontae Adams. So generating a lot of pressure with 4 allows you to get really creative on the back end with faking a lot of blitz pressures, bringing more blitz pressures if you want to. But if you have to bring guys, if you have to bring extra guys to generate pressure, Dak Prescott's been the number one quarterback against the blitz this year. And that's just a statistical fact. That isn't me being a homer. It's just a fact. He's thrown more touchdown passes against the blitz than any other quarterback this league in this league by, I think it was like 5 or 6. And of his 37 total touchdowns, 21 of them have come against the blitz. So if you can't bring pressure with just 4 and you have to bring extra guys, the Cowboys will start picking that 49er secondary apart.
All right. And typically 49ers, they rush 4, I think a higher percentage of the time more than anyone.
Right.
Their blitz percentage or their blitz rate or whatever, it's typically really low. All right. I want to get my guy
absolutely.
Dion on here. Dion, man, how you doing, bro?
I'm good. How y'all doing today, man?
Doing good, man.
Chilling.
Good. So, one of the questions that I have for you is basically how you feeling about this young kid Wilson, man? He's come on real strong for you guys here in the past couple of weeks, man. I want to know how you feel about him and where did he come from, man? Because he just like kind of came out of nowhere after Gallup went down. This dude just took on the role and started shining from day one.
Yeah. No, Cedric Wilson, it's funny that you bring him up because for people that religiously follow the Dallas Cowboys, he's been our pet cat for years now. He comes from Boise, same place as Kellen Moore, same place as Tank Lawrence, back with the whole Jason Garrett regime that we had. We really loved our Boise guys, whether it was offense or defense. So we still have a few holdovers from there. He's a traditional slot guy, and he's a little bit of a gadget guy. And Kellen, coming from Boise, loves running gadget plays. So he gets a lot of shine, and he can throw the football really well. I think he played quarterback in high school. So, but it's funny that you bring it up that when Gallup went down, he really came on the scene because the games, and I spoke to this earlier, the games where we were struggling, it seemed that Michael Gallup was getting the majority of the reps. And then when he went down, Cedric Wilson came in, the offense started clicking a little bit better. It opened up things for Amari Cooper. It opened up things for CeeDee Lamb. While their catches and their yards went down, the offense as a whole was a lot better.
And it took a step forward.
Yeah. So what you were seeing is you weren't having to keep Amari Cooper in the slot. You weren't having to keep CeeDee Lamb in the slot because, unfortunately, Michael Gallup just really isn't that prolific in the slot. So he's more of our outside deep play jump ball guy. So when he's in there, you have 3 guys that are either outside guys, and 2 of them can play inside. But when you have Cedric Wilson in, you have a guy that specializes in the slot. And you have 2 guys that can both play in the slot if you want to get creative. So the offense just plays a lot more fluidly, at least in the passing game with Cedric Wilson. Even though I think Michael Gallup's a better receiver, I personally feel like Cedric Wilson is better for this offense.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me. He's like your Debo to an extent. Like he's your do it all type of cat.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of Debos, but if one guy was to be our Debo, it would probably be Cedric Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, you want to go ahead and read that, Crocky? I don't want to interrupt, brother.
Oh, yeah. No, he just says in 2011, we cracked Romo's ribs. I remember he left the game and then came back late in the game to throw basically a game-winning touchdown in overtime.
Yeah, well, let's not forget either, Travis. His ribs were cracked and he had a punctured lung.
Yeah. And he says fans at that game, similar, too many Cowboy fans at that game, similar to how we treated the Rams in their house. And I guess that's how rivalries go. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it does work like that, man. And my other question, first I have to say, hey, man, you are very lucky to have Micah Parsons. That young man is an all-out monster. How do you feel that your defense is going to hold up against our run game? Because that's most likely what, that's our bread and butter. That's our strength. How do you feel that the defense holds up against our run game?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. And I think that's the most important aspect that Cowboys fans are asking themselves. Are we going to be able to, are we going to be able to slow down that run game? because I said this earlier, you're very stubborn when it comes to running the football, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, similarly to the Seahawks in 2018 when we played them, that was a big talking point as well. Well, when we had to play them in the playoffs, and they were the number one rushing team in the NFL. They were very stubborn. They would run the football regardless of whatever the situation was in the game, and we came out and we held them to 76 yards. There's a lot of the personnel on that Dallas Cowboys team that's not here anymore, but there's still a lot of that defensive line is still here. And I think it's going to be really important to see if we can at least slow it down and force you guys to have to throw the ball early in the game. If it's late in the game and Jimmy has the ball in his hands, I'm worried. But if it's early in the game, I think he can get confused a lot, and I think he has a hard time processing the game post snap at a fast level. So if we can't slow down that running game, which I don't know if we can, and this is just me being honest, I'm going to need to see at least the first half of this game before I feel comfortable projecting if we're going to be able to do it the rest of the game or not. So it's going to be problematic, and I think a lot of that's going to come down to what's going to decide the outcome of this game is whether or not we could slow you guys down running the football or not.
Yeah, man. And for me, I look at it from a defensive standpoint. For us, it's stopping that little three-headed monster that you guys have there. I'm going to be as respectful about this as I possibly can. I am not worried about your run game by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sorry. It's
it's okay. Neither am I. Right?
There you go. I like it.
If I'm a 49er fan, I want the Dallas Cowboys to run the ball 45 times because
because
that's a recipe for disaster for us.
Exactly. We're just not allowing people to run all over us. And then, when it comes to Jimmy, he's great in that 2-minute drill. The other times, there's times where he's just suspect, and it just scares the shit out of me because I don't need him to throw that inopportunistic pick. We're 2-7 when he throws a pick, and it's a little crazy. So hopefully things will work out well for us. And believe you me, man, I'm telling you right now, we're trying to paint AT&T Stadium red, buddy. We want to get out.
I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I just need Cowboys fans to show a little pride and stop selling their damn tickets to y'all.
I know. I saw that. I saw that on Twitter, bro. I saw that on Twitter. They were like, "Yeah, man, we got to sell these. We don't sell tickets to 49er fans and all that." I'm like,
I was joking on Twitter. Also, I said, if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm not letting y'all through the gate. You can buy all the tickets you want, but if you got red on and an SF on your hat, you don't even get through the gate. I don't care if we have 35% capacity. I'm not letting y'all through the gate. But we know it's going to happen, and the beautiful thing about that is outside of interdivisional games, I don't care what anybody says. This is the most historic and deep-rooted rivalry in the NFL. This is Lakers Celtics for the NFL, right? So
very much so.
It's gonna be crazy. We overload your stadium whenever we have to play there. I know I'm gonna see a lot of red at AT&T Stadium. Come this Sunday. It's just gonna be fun, man. I haven't been this excited about a playoff game in a really, really long time.
And I think this playoff game is going to be the playoff game of the weekend. Like, you can watch all the other ones, but I'm telling you right now, for everybody out there watching this right now, 49ers and Dallas rivalry goes back a long, long way, man.
Time.
We beat each other up. We won some, they won some. But at the end of the day, man, you have to, you got to love everything that comes along with this game. And You got to know that this one is going to take you to the brink of disaster. If you think that last week, you aged a little bit or you had high blood pressure, this game is going to put you through the roof. And it's only strictly because we know what's at stake. I do have to say, man, for me, I think that it's going to be a closer game than people might think. I don't see a blowout on either side. I probably say it's going to be about a 3 to 7 point game, whoever actually wins. For me personally, I'm definitely going for my Niners. I'm gonna rep that all day. I want us to really go in there and kick your teeth in. But, at the same time, I know that we can get our teeth kicked in if we ain't smart enough, So
are you going to the game, Dion?
I cannot, man. I'm not going to Texas, bro. I ain't got no way to get to Texas, man. Believe me, if I did, you, and Breezy would be right there, and we meet up with him and be at the gate. Like, all right, there's three of us. One of you. We get to the gate.
Yeah. All right, I'm
I
gonna get
want
you off
all
and get the
I
next
want all
caller
the
on,
smoke, so
Dion.
it's fine.
Appreciate you
Appreciate
coming
it,
on,
man.
bro.
Hey,
Appreciate
nice
you, man.
talking to you. Have fun, Crock.
All right, got another caller that's been patiently waiting. Real quick, get to this contribution here from our guy Brad. Wilson is Dak's go-to. He's very comfortable and confident when Wilson is on the field, like Romo and Beasley were. What has kind of
It's a
gone
good point.
to, or what has kind of contributed to that, right? I mean, because you look at the Cowboys, and there is CeeDee Lamb, and I noticed kind of over the last 5 games, there was kind of a 4-game kind of window there where CeeDee Lamb's targets were a little bit lower,
Mhm.
right? He wasn't having the 9, 10 game targets for a little bit. Is it just as simple as, well, Wilson is the closest guy kind of to the quarterback in the sense of where he's aligned and he's more comfortable getting him the ball in space? Or what has kind of contributed to him having more of this offensive explosion as opposed to the other talented the receivers that Cowboys have on the outside?
Yeah, no, that's been something that I've been kind of, trying to diagnose and analyze, over the last 10 or 12 games or so. And really, I spoke to this earlier. Cedric Wilson's a true slot guy. So when you were seeing CeeDee Lamb getting these gaudy numbers every week, majority of that was coming from the slot. Now he would have a couple plays on the outside where he would break something deep, or he would, come on like a deep crosser, right? And he would get something like that on, on a designed rollout. But majority of his yards and his catches come when he's in the slot. So when Cedric Wilson came back, or excuse me, when Michael Gallup came out and Cedric Wilson stepped in, Cedric Wilson is a slot specialist. That's what he's always been, even back at Boise. So what you were seeing was CeeDee coming to the outside a lot more, and Cedric Wilson just seems to have a knack for always getting open when Dak needs him to be. The Romo to Beasley thing is kind of funny to me because I didn't really ever really think about it that way. But you were seeing, Gallup can't really play the outside, or he can't really play the slot that well, and at least not comparatively to CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. So when Gallup was in, a lot of their targets would come on the opposite side or when they were moved inside. And then when Gallup went out, Cedric Wilson stepped in. He's primarily the slot guy. So when we're trying to play up tempo and we're playing with a really fast pace, which is what I expect Dallas to do again this week, you're going to see Cedric Wilson getting a lot of targets because he seems to get open.
Awesome. So I have my guy. He's been patiently waiting. My guy. What, Chris? It says you're in here. Chris, you on?
Yeah. Can you hear me perfectly?
Yeah, got you loud and clear.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, because my stuff's been staticky. That's why. So I was like, send the link again. But what's up? What's up, Chris?
How you doing, man? Thank you for tuning in.
It's going good. It's been busy. Woke
Chris.
up, had my little little interview, I guess you could call it. See how that whole thing goes, and train some athletes. Hopped on here. I'm actually going on a podcast with a Cowboy guy a little bit later today. Then I got a couple podcasts I have to knock out for my obligations, and then get ready to fly out to Minnesota tomorrow. I fly to Minnesota tomorrow, Chris.
Oh, I didn't know that. Man, we got to link up.
Yeah, we'll see. So I get out there around, I think, 1 tomorrow. I got to look at my flight stuff. And I'll only be out there Friday. I'm evaluating some prospects at this training facility out that way. And then Saturday, I'm flying out to Dallas for the game.
Okay. Well, we can definitely see what's up. I can definitely, make some time to scoot in, come to you, and see wherever you're at. Want you to meet my nephew too, top 50 prospect in the 2030 draft class. So
yeah. Hold on real quick before we continue, Chris. Jarwin is back. Great for our offense to get back to that 12 personnel. Our offense we're explosive when we ran 12 personnel a lot. So do you expect, and this is an answer for you, Chris, you know better than I do, are y'all better having an extra tight end in the field as opposed to an extra receiver on the field?
Man, that's a good question. You know this as well as you know anybody else that we're going to talk to on this channel. A lot of that's going to be based on whatever coverages and whatever defenses are showing us, right? So uh, we are very explosive. He's right. I'm just worried about how much we're going to see Blake Jarwin hit the field since he just came back from injury. Um, when he's clicking, it's funny. I forget exactly who it was, and this was a couple of years ago. I think it was Dak Prescott that said it, but he felt like obviously this is different now with Michael Parsons on the team, but at the time, he felt like Blake Jarwin was the best athlete on the roster, not just on
Wow.
the offense. So yes, we are absolutely really explosive, especially with Blake Jarwin because he allows us to push stuff downfield, over the middle, which we haven't been able to do a lot this year because he's been missing time. But I think it's gonna be hard to see. Really, I just don't know how much he's gonna see the field since he just came back.
Okay. All right. But what's up, Chris? What's on your mind? Thanks again for being patient with us.
Oh no, you good. I'm chilling today. First off, I want to say I was wrong, Crock. You was right. The Niners, they started Jimmy. They were right to start Jimmy Garoppolo. So I came on the show and I was very loud. So I better be loud when I'm wrong too.
Yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
that
And
you was
my
right.
my reasoning behind that was we know it's just there's more known in the sense of that atmosphere, what it takes, what we're going to get from the quarterback and the offense. Again, yeah, you're going to have a couple interceptions or bad throws that potentially can be picked off from Jimmy, but you also know typically he's going to put you in position to be able to win. Now, whether they win or not, that's one thing. That's a different thing. But you'll be in position as opposed to being in that environment on the road, which was kind of a home game still. But a rookie quarterback, if he fell behind in that situation, you'd be in trouble. I think that just the train just fall off the tracks at that point. So it was good to see Jimmy Garoppolo, continue to stay at it. A lot of people start doubting his thumb. I didn't think that would be an issue if he was out there playing. And, it was good to see him come back and make me look like I was right.
But I wanted to push back on something Chris said earlier about the Rams taking their foot off the gas in the second half. I'm gonna say this: the Rams didn't have the ability to try to run the ball against us. Our run defense literally shut them down. We made them a one-dimensional team, and so they couldn't control the clock in the second half, run down the time, keep the ball away from the Niners as a not. And I think that's what ultimately got us back in the game. They literally couldn't run the ball, and when you're not able to run a ball like that and you're going 3 and out, you're giving that other offense a lot of opportunities. And so I think that's why the Rams couldn't get it going in the second half. But I wanted to ask you, Chris, and I asked another Cowboys person this yesterday in Spaces. Who do you think, if you could give me a player on defense and offense, who do you think will be the unsung heroes if y'all were to win on Sunday?
Ooh, it's a good question. Offensively for the Cowboys, I think it could be Dalton Schultz. I think he's a guy that, again, he just always seems to get open, and he's one of Dak Prescott's favorite targets in the red zone. So he could be a big reason why the Cowboys end up winning the game. He could be a big reason why the Cowboys end up blowing the game open. So he could be my unsung hero on offense. Defensively, I think it's got to be Jaron Kearse. He's going to have a big test trying to guard George Kittle, and he's one of, if not the most physical guys on defense. And so he will be challenging Debo on those stretch sweeps when you guys try and get him outside. He will be challenging people when they come across the middle. We use him a lot as a run blitzing safety. And then we use him a lot as a pass splitting safety. He's gone a little bit under the radar for guys like Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs stealing all of the headlines, but he's probably going to have the biggest test. And I think based on how he's played, he can live up to that. Another guy that we see in rotation a lot in safety and could be a big play guy for us is Malik Hooker. So keep an eye on those two guys.
And I got one more question for you. Do you think the physicality of your football team is being undersold because of how people view the 49ers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, thanks for the question. I absolutely think so. We've been a physical team for majority of the year. We like to smash you in the mouth defensively. We like to smash you in the mouth offensively and try and run the football. We haven't ran the football well the last 6 to 8 weeks, but people are trying to say that the Cowboys are not a physical football team because of 2 games where we were out physical. I don't think we're the most physical team in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but I know for a fact that we are a physical football team. What's going to come down to our physicality versus your physicality is how many of our players, how many of your players have to turn on being physical as opposed to just being physical, and which team is going to start to slow down as the game goes on later in the game, the third and the fourth quarter, which team is going to be more physical. That's the question that I think people should be asking.
Well, I have one answer for you. The Niners definitely don't have to turn it on. That's just everybody that they draft and the guys that they have, like they all they come with that physicality. That's almost like a standard for Kyle Shanahan. He doesn't like pussies. Right. Like you gotta you gotta bring that element. And if you are on the softer side, they're gonna run you out of there, right? Like they did Dante Pettis. So and some other guys. So yeah, that's like guaranteed with the 49ers. You're gonna have that physical element. And it starts up front with guys like Nick Bosa. He is the bully. Guys like
Tank Lawrence is a bully too.
Fred Warner. You watch how Fred Warner is and how he carries himself and his demeanor and how he gets in guys' faces. Like they're all kind of like the tough guy bully. So, if it's bully on bully, then we're just gonna have to figure it out. But I know one thing, those guys, Jimmy Ward, Tart, the way he comes down. Deebo Samuel, the way he just carries the ball and his how he tries to inflict pain on guys. He ran through. He had Jalen Ramsey running full speed at him, and he dipped on boom. And I thought that Ramsey was going to go through the turf. How hard? Now he bounced up, and he got in Deebo's face, and Deebo looking like, "What are you doing?"
What I'm saying? What did you expect was going to happen out here?
Yeah, they got the 49ers had a bully. So if the Cowboys got bullies, then it's just gonna be bullies on bullies. 49ers, Trent Williams, I don't know if there's a tougher player in the NFL than him. So I think those are the things that I'm really excited to see. So real quick before we get out of here, I want to get a final score prediction from you.
A final score prediction?
Yeah.
No analysis, just numbers.
You can say how you think the game is going to go, give your final score, and
yeah. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be close until probably midway through the fourth quarter, and I think Dallas is going to be able to pull it out. I think it's going to be a situation where the Cowboy fan base is going to be on the edge of their seat because they're going to be like, "Man, we're only up, we're only up by 2 right now, or we're only up by 1, and we do not want to give Jimmy the ball back." And we need to score in this drive, and then I think we're going to score in that drive. And like I said earlier, I think we'll end up pulling it away late, 31-23.
All right, 31-23. And me, just again, I look at the 49ers, Broadway bullies. They're going to come down. I think they're going to push the Cowboys around a little bit, but obviously the Cowboys are going to push back. I think Cowboys have some explosive weapons. Obviously, they're going to be in the game. 49ers are going to be in the game. I think it's going to come down to almost who has the ball last. And I'm going to say it's the 49ers. I believe they win 30-27. The Cowboys, they score points. 49ers can score points. Definitely see it's shaking out that way. Go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on when we were talking about physicality, um, I watched a full film breakdown, play by play of the Green Bay San Francisco game. And one thing I noticed is when you guys run a lot of too high shell, you don't mask a lot of stuff. And if and Green Bay checked out a lot of that into the run. They didn't get very much. They were getting very small amounts over and over and over again. But as the game went on, guys like Joey Bosa and guys like Fred Warner, they were taking bad angles and they were reaching a lot trying to get to running backs. They're getting tired. I know you guys are a physical team, and this is not me saying I think you guys are going to stop being physical. You guys are going to continue smashing helmets to helmets for the rest of the game. My thing is, if you guys get tired, we will start to be able to run the football. Because Green Bay was able to start doing that against you. They'll be able to start taking shots downfield. So that's my only caveat. Don't blow too much energy trying to out physical us too early. You guys could get tired.
I know, and that can happen in big games like this. And you probably in your childhood played some of those games that are like just you're super amped up. That is like, dang, by the end of the first quarter, it's like, golly, I need an IV. I'm so kind of exhausted. I've exuded so much energy, and I know I've had games like that as well. But Chris, man, let everybody know before you get out here. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I knew I was I could see it in the chat. I was dealing with a lot of Cowboy slander or whatever, but it's all in good fun. It's all in good love.
So shout out to
them. Yeah. Shout out to the Cowboy fans that came in here. I don't know where you guys came from. If you guys just normally tune into Crock all the time, or if you follow me here on Twitter. But I appreciate you guys coming in here with me. You can find me on Twitter at NONV_Chris. That's no envy, abbreviated. NONV_Chris at Twitter. And NONV Chris on Instagram as well. I talk a lot of football analysis on my page, but I also, I have my own clothing line. I'm wearing a shirt right now of that. I know a lot of people from the top looks like it was probably the star, but no, yeah. So I run my own clothing line. You guys can go check that out. I'm going to be doing a special promotion next month for Black History Month. I'm going to be donating 50% of all the proceeds that I generate from all my total sales to HBCUs next month. So please go check that out. Get yourself something, get your family something, whatever. I would appreciate it very, very much. I want to try and give back as much as I can. So Crock, man, it's been a pleasure. You're my brother. I appreciate you having me on to talk this rivalry. And yeah, man, good luck. May the best team win on Sunday. It's going to be us, but may the best team win. So,
and real quick, I got a super chat, so I have to honor it. He says that run defense that you saw against the Packers is not the same run defense that they are today.
Okay.
Which the numbers say that as well. The numbers back that up. It's a team that has gotten really stout against the run for whatever reasons. And I don't know. I can tell you why.
No, you're good. You're good.
But that's going to be something that we definitely keep an eye on. But Chris, man, I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks so much.
All right. That's my dog, Chris, man. Now he's going to kick their ass. No, I'm joking. But no, that's my dog, Chris, man. Shout out to him. If you guys aren't following him on social media, follow him on Twitter. Like he said, no envy Chris. He's on there. He's live. He's active. He actually somehow has a good following from the 49er fan base. There are a lot of 49er people that follow Chris. So go ahead. He pretty keeps things even keel. Doesn't get too crazy, but I think this weekend, I know how I can get a little turned up. You know what I'm saying? I can get a little turned up. I know I'm gonna be excited on game day. Turned up. I'm gonna be at the Dallas Cowboys stadium out there in Arlington or whatever the hell they are, man. It don't matter. I'm gonna be out there. Past 9 games, 49ers haven't allowed 100 yards, and teams are averaging 3.3 yards per carry over the last 9 yards. 49ers run defense definitely getting it going and setting the tone up for the rest of the game, man. I'm excited about this. I don't know if I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow morning or Friday morning. Again, tomorrow I'll be traveling to Minnesota. Friday, I have to evaluate some prospects at the training facility. And then Saturday morning, I fly out to Dallas. So from Minnesota to Dallas. So I'm gonna be a little busy. I'm gonna try to get somebody on here with y'all though, so you guys don't miss the show. Man, I appreciate every one of y'all. If you are new to this channel and you haven't been here before and you're like, man, I like this show, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend, let people know what we got going on here. We definitely didn't get to the underdog fantasy. We didn't get to the underdog fantasy. I'll try to come on, do some underdog fantasy. Promo code Crocky. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. If you are someone like me that likes to wager on over, unders, and do those type of things and make you some money, parlay it together, Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. Came up with some money last week. Got some good stuff. So that's going to do it for this episode. I appreciate everybody that's in here. I love all y'all. I appreciate all y'all. It don't get no better than this, man. Niners versus Cowboys. Let's go. I'm out. Peace.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Aaron Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into.
Hold up. Real quick. Somebody said no QB Monday. There was no QB Monday this Monday, but I'm going to see if Greg Pinelli has any time today. All right, so Greg has time later tonight. Be on the lookout for me going live. You guys will get the notification. Y'all come in here. Greg Pinelli, I want to get his opinion on the past performance between the 49ers and the Rams, the quarterbacks in that game, the performance against the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott. We're going to get into all that with Greg Pinelli. I'm hoping I can get him on later tonight. So if I can, then yeah, there will be QB. Won't be QB Monday, but QB Wednesday. But all right, y'all, I'm out. Let's go. Peace.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Aaron Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crock Talk TV podcast. Peace.